Welcome back to Introduction to Engineering Design. Today we're going to talk about modifying one of the configurations of our basic Automata box. So you'll see that I've got the Automata box up on your screen, and it's a fully defined model, and we can tell that by a couple different indications. The first indication is where my cursor is flashing in the lower right hand corner in the status bar. You'll see that it says the words fully defined. Another quick way we can tell is when we move the parts around, or we try and move the parts around, they don't slide, they don't wiggle. So that's a pretty straightforward way. Now that's not to be confused with rotating the model in the model space. So right now I'm rotating the entire model space around. Third way that I can tell is if I look over here into my design tree, I can pretty plainly see that there are no minus signs in front of any of my parts. So you'll see I've got an Automata box top, two box ends, a front that's used on both the front and the back of the model. Now let me turn one of these mates off, and I'm just going to do something called suppressing it, which is the same as kind of temporarily turning it off. And I've turned off a constraint on this back piece right here, and you'll see now it slides back and forth. You're also going to notice that I've got a minus sign at the front of that piece. That means it's not fully constrained. You'll also notice that I went to under defined on my assembly model status bar. So I'm going to go ahead and unsuppress that constraint. You'll see it goes back to being fully defined. Minus sign goes away. So before you finish any assembly, you want to be sure that you fully constrain it, at least as much as is required by the design. All of our designs in Introduction to Engineering Design will always be fully constrained models. Okay, with that said, I want to make an exploded view. And I showed you an exploded view before, and we looked at it in the instructions. And what it really is good at is exploded views are very good ways to show how something goes together. You'll see these in IKEA furniture and other things that are assembled just by a pictorial display. And what an exploded view does is it just temporarily relaxes the associations of the mates that we made to put the part together, or put the assembly together, put the parts together. So let's go through and make an exploded view. Now there's a couple different ways we can do that. An exploded view is really a configuration. So if I click on my over here in my design tree, and I click over here on the configuration manager, you're going to see that I only have one configuration in this model. It's the default configuration. I can add an exploded view in this position by just right-clicking and choosing New Exploded View. But maybe even an easier way is just coming up here on the Assembly tab and choosing Exploded View. That takes me to that configuration and lets me put one in. So the exploded view, the default here, is to go ahead and go out in translation and rotation in steps. So I'm going to rotate my model so it's convenient for me to do the exploded view. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab this lid. And you'll see that when I highlight a single element or multiple elements, I get these push-pull arrows. And I can either push down or pull up. And I'm going to pull up. And you'll see a little indication of distance. And I'm going about an inch on everything. And I'm not going to try and be perfect at all. So I'm going to pull the lid up. Again, I'm going to click on the end. And I'm going to pull it out about an inch. Now let's pause and look. And you'll see I've got two exploded steps. And I pulled up the top in the first move and the end in the second move. So let's keep doing this, and I'm going to push the other end out, again about an inch. I'm going to pull the front towards me, again about an inch, give or take, and I'm going to push this back side out. So you'll see that I'm just grabbing these arrows, X, Y, and Z. So now I've got an exploded view. Now I've got 4 sides and a top, or 5 total pieces, and as a result, I've got 5 total steps. If I accept it, I now have an exploded view. Now sometimes students go, oh my goodness, I just ruined my model. How do I get it to go back together? And the short answer is, you just come right over here to the configuration, and you can expand it down and double click on the exploded view, and it collapses. So double click opens and closes it. Similarly, I can right-click, and then I can say explode, and it pops it apart, and I can right-click and collapse. Also on that right-click is I can animate an explosion, and I can actually record a little clip of it. So that's kind of slick for your presentations later on. And I can also close my display, right-click it, and I can animate the collapse. So that's how we make an exploded view in SolidWorks. I'd like you to make an exploded view of your assembly for later on when we make a assembly drawing. It'll be very handy. That's it. Thanks for watching.